Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to talk about the death of Eddie Guerrero, a WWE wrestler who passed away from heart failure, supposedly, in the year 2005. We're going to look at the numerology and gematria of his death and see why it seems to be very suspicious. Now the first thing I want to point out about his death is that a little over a year before he died, about a year and a half, he actually faked a heart attack on television. And he's shown here freezing up in the ring and then he passes out. He sold it really well, and a lot of people thought it was real. The date that this episode of SmackDown aired had the exact same numerology in all 8 calculation methods as the date on which he died in the following year. Out of all these numbers, the most important one that I want people to look at are the 13s and 31s. You see there's 31 here in multiple calculation methods in both dates. Both dates also reduce to a numerology of 13, and the date he died was on the 13th day of the month. I'll link my post below down on the significance of 1331. And how this number, represented through the language of Gematria, represents a solar eclipse, and it actually points at a solar eclipse that occurred in the year 1331, which never touched any major bodies of water. So this is really the basis, the root of Gematria, from what I can tell. So it just so happens that when Eddie died, he was aged 38 years and 35 days. Born October 9th, 1967, died November 13th, 2005. 35 and 38 are the only 2 numbers in trigonal gematria that sum to 1331, and really one of only a few numbers in any form of gematria. Now what we're looking at here, as far as the language of gematria is concerned, is the practice of coding numbers into words. The most basic cipher is the English ordinal, which numbers each letter 1 through 26 relative to their position in the alphabet. You can also reverse the alphabetic order, and then each cipher can be reduced to a single digit by adding all the double-digit numbers together until you drop down to a number 1 through 9. Well, trigonal gematria is based on the alphabetic order and is actually one of the base 10 ciphers in the ancient Hebrew language where this practice originates. Here we use the associated triangular numbers and add that to the equation instead of their normal position in the alphabet. And both the numbers, 35 and 38, have a gematria value of 1331. Again, it's 1331 that represents a total eclipse. 1331 eclipse equals 1331. And the date of that eclipse in 1331 was November 30th, which is the only date that sums to 1331. So why would it be Eddie Guerrero chosen for this ritual? Well, using the standard alphabetic order, Eddie Guerrero's full name sums to 303. He was born on October 9th, 1967, which has a reduced numerology of 33. Now the 33rd prime number is 137, and he was born in the city of El Paso, Texas, which again, using the alphabetic order, sums to 137. He would then go on to die of heart failure in November of 2005. That was in the city of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Using the reverse alphabetic order, that sums to 303 as well. The significance of this 303 comes from the Bible, where Jesus died at age 33, and what you're seeing in the media is just constant reminders relivings of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. And in Gematria, this sums to 303. This is also the case using the Jewish order, 303. And Minneapolis, Minnesota, sums to 93 in the reduction method. Crucifix sums to 93 using the alphabetic order. So does God's Son, 93. They say that the crucifixion occurred on the 93rd day of the year between 9 and 3 o'clock. So going back to the number 33, the word eclipse equals 33, and right after the crucifixion begins, it's said that a total solar eclipse starts, darkening the skies in the Bible. Now again, the 33rd prime number, 137, and total eclipse equals 137. Now in Hebrew Gematria, the phrase for total eclipse sums to 227. And we saw this value, or the inverse of it, in the Jewish Gematria of El Paso, Texas, which sums to 722. When Eddie Guerrero died, he had just turned 457 months. 457 is the 88th prime number. And El Paso, Texas, using prime numbers, sums to 457. And 88, of course, being the number that represents the passage of time, the movement of the moon and the sun in the sky. In the Kabbalah, the word circle, summing to 88, in both primary methods. Now, I did a video on the death of Chris Benoit, which I'll link below. And if you measure between the death of Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero, and these two men were actually really good friends in real life, Chris Benoit ended up dying a couple years later, June 24th, 2007, and measuring between their birthdays was exactly 84 weeks. Now, in the language of Gematria, solar eclipse equals 433 in the Jewish cipher. This is the 84th prime number. And both of these men weren't just best friends, but they were connected numerically also. Both of them were born in the year 67. In reduction Gematria, total solar eclipse sums to 67. This is also the value of blood sacrifice as well as human sacrifice, all 67. The name Christopher sums to 67. So does Chris Benoit when you reverse the alphabetic order. Now, 67, why is this so significant? Well, I showed you a couple of reasons of Gematria, but usually Gematria is attributing some sort of real-life mathematical significance. And what 67 comes down to is the fact that it is the 19th prime number. And 19 is a very significant number in time. Every 19 years, there's a reset of the moon cycle. This is called Anita Sideris in Greek, or the Metonic cycle in English. And it's a period of 19 years that syncs up with 235 lunar phases. This is the source of where we get the Gematria of words like time and light. So every 19 years, we get a Metonic cycle, 67 the 19th prime. Eddie Guerrero was born on October 9th, the date written 10/9. And in numerology, these zeros, they're ignored. This is dropped, and this number then becomes 19. And the name Guerrero, in the reverse order, also equals 109, a lot like his birthday. Now, the number 19 sums to 244 in Jewish. This is the Hebrew value of the word for kill. In ordinal, 19 sums to 86, this being a symbolic number for killing someone. You can say someone is 86 after they've been offed. Well, Eddie Guerrero, born 10/9/67, this all summing to 86. This date, October 9th, leaves 83 days in the year, both total eclipse and solar eclipse in Hebrew, summing to 83. And in English, the word murder, 83 reverse. I just want to point out the gematria of Guerrero in reduction. You have 53 and 46. Let's first start with the 107, ritual sacrifice 107. And then with the 53, you can get solar eclipse, 53, and sacrifice equals 46. Guerrero having both those numbers. And he died in Minneapolis, which has 3 matching numbers with the word sacrifice, 55, 62, and 170. Now, Guerrero died at age 38, and this is a number commonly coded into these rituals, almost always in some form or fashion. The word death equals 38, just like the word killing in reduction and murder in the reverse method. The state in which he died was Minnesota. Minnesota equals 38 in reduction. Also, in extended, Minnesota equals 515. In that same cipher, Jesus equals 515. And I talked about the relationship between this ritual and the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. Well, of course, there's another relationship between the eclipse and the crucifixion. Moon in Hebrew ordinal equals 38. And it does seem that this could be related to an eclipse. He died exactly 103 weeks before a total solar eclipse. Ritual human sacrifice in single reduction, summing to 103. And what's also interesting is that when you convert, so let's measure from that last eclipse that took place before he died. If you convert this 103 weeks to, you got 1113, and then he died on the date 1113, 1113. 11 and 13, by the way, when you multiply that, you get the number 143. And when you take the word for circle, which what I claim is the mark of the beast, circle has a Hebrew value of 143. Again, this is 11 times 13. And it's that big circle in the sky that I think they're worshiping, that takes place during the eclipse. So moving on, he also died 19 weeks and 3 days before the next total eclipse. 193 being the 44th prime number. The word kill equals 44 in the alphabetic order. Also interesting that the word eclipse in Jewish ordinal, summing to 66. The 66th prime number is 317. And the date that he died is the 317th day of the year. Of course, we see this 33 in the reduction value of eclipse. 33 also equaling 66, just like the word homicide in the alphabetic order. So again, I will link my post and my video on the death of Chris Benoit below, as well as this blog post. Please check those out. And the WWE still appears to be doing this. I will also link my video on the Austin bombings, which are related to the deaths of Owen Hart and more recently Rowdy Roddy Piper in 2015. All right, thanks for watching. God bless.